Hey there guys, it's That Guy's Eric here, and today I'm going to be showing you a really cool illusion you can do with your images. Now, what we're going to do is we're basically going to take this picture right here, and we're going to make it look like this picture here. It's very easy, very simple, very cool, and very fun. So, what are we going to need? Well, first, we are going to need, we're going to need our raw images, and I actually have mine cataloged just here, and we're going to want to find the images we do. So what we're going to do is we want to take first an image of our background, which you've already seen, and then an image of our subject, which is this one here. Now let's take these into Photoshop. We'll start with a blank canvas, real simple. We're going to drop in our background first. Hit OK on that. We'll mess with all the colors and everything later in Lightroom. That's just the way that I like to do it if I can. In most cases I can, so that's how we'll do that. And then on top of that we will drop our image with the subject. Now what I like to do is the subject on top, I like to kind of reduce the opacity so it's a little easier to see, because what we want to do is we want to line these images up as close as we possibly can, so that way when we remove the stool in this instance, any leaves, foliage, anything underneath it will not just be cut off. For instance, this leaf will not just be missing part of the leaf. It'll still retain most of its image. And I think that's pretty close to lined up. I used mostly the pole here, and it looks like they're double stacked here. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring that opacity, the more you know, back up, and we are going to select the pen tool. You can either select it or use P. And what we're going to do is this lets us create some kind of shape or object for a very, very precise cutout. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut out all of the parts that are touching the stool at this moment. So we'll start here, and then once we get off of the stool in these bigger areas, we can just kind of make them as big and fast as we need to, because all we need to do is line exactly where the stool is. Now, I tend to do this part pretty precisely but also pretty quickly, because what I like to do after is use the curvature pen tool to really finalize the precision in the image. And you can zoom in, zoom out, do whatever you need, but I will suggest using smaller strokes, because that way if you do make a mistake, it's a lot easier to fix. I also find it to be a lot more precise when I do it this way, as opposed to just doing something like that and then that. But that's just my personal taste. If you have a way that does it better, far be it for I to tell you how to do you, because that's the last thing I want to do. And again, we're going to come in real close on this area here. We can cut out again because there's no stool here. Cut back in around the shoe. And in dark spaces like this, if it helps you at all, you can increase the exposure, contrast, whatever you have to do to help your eyes see it better before you start doing the cutout. I've done that in a couple different images where it's just too dark to kind of read the line between a black shoe and a black chair, for example. So once you have the cutout done, again, we're just going to do really quick strokes and get it back to our starting point. And now is where I'm going to select the curvature pen tool, because what I want to do is get it as close to the lines as possible so I can do a 0 pixel feather. And what that means is none of the pixels will be blended between the image. Now, there are two ways that I have done this, and you can go a little bit into the clothing I'm wearing, for example, and it'll just cut off about 2 pixels of the clothing. That'll help blend that way, or you can just do it right on the line. You can actually get really close because you can see my pant leg right here still. So I could actually do a point right here and just get even closer to that if I really, really needed to or wanted to. So if you're doing professionalism, maybe that's how you want to do it, because it definitely looks a lot cleaner than like a 5-pixel feather, because that looks really blurry and really odd when you're dropping it on an image that has a lot of different shapes, like onto grass in this particular instance. So we're just, again, going to make sure this is as perfect as I like it to be. And then you also have these ones like this. So if we just erase this, it would actually be a cut into my leg. So just make sure you have these points and you just pull them out and put them into the place they need to be. Real simple. Really, really simple. And if you add a point by accident with the curvature, you can just Control-Z, get rid of that, no problem. So now we're going to come down here, and you can see how I was a little bit lazier on this one, just for the sake of demonstration. Start with this pixel point right here. And the cool thing is there's really a very large contrast between the color of my shoe and the color of the stool. So it's actually really, really, really easy to see these pixels. And you can just bring it in as tight as you'd like it to be. Again, this is at a point your personal preference. And if you need to add a point, you can. Such as if this bend is too, if there was a bend right here, for example, I could pull this back out, just like that. You actually have a lot of liberty with this tool, and that's why I really like it so much. Let's fix that point there. That's good enough for this demonstration, I believe. Come back up here. Again, we got some overlapping points here, really easy to fix. We'll get up here where these pixels are going into the pant line and pull them back out, pull them uniform with the rest. That one's fine there. Let's get these guys a little bit closer. And this is just my version of the precision. This is just, again, I really like to, if possible, have 0 pixel feather. It really, really adds to the believability of the image, in my opinion. And sometimes you get tie-ups like this, so I'm just going to pull the points apart so I can figure out where they're going, kind of like a puzzle. And I'm not sure why this happens, but I just know that it does. And then we're just going to zoom back out here, and we're going to pull these to the pant line. And I think this is the stool right here. So we just gotta make sure these are all out of the leg, because that little area doesn't actually matter. So saving grace in that part. Now all we have left is the other part of the right shoe. I'm gonna pull this one up just a teeny bit. I'm gonna pull this one in line right here. And I do believe that's good enough for me, for the sake of demonstration at least. So we can get on with the rest of it. Make sure to go back to your pen tool. Something happened there, that's kind of weird. We're gonna have to pull you 2 back out, I believe. Boop. Again, the ending shape doesn't really matter too much, so, because that's not what we're concerned with. And then we'll go here. We'll select Make Selection. Again, a 0 pixel feather. And we're going to go make a layer mask. So for the layer, we're going to make a layer mask, and we're going to have it reveal all so that our layer is white. We're going to go to the brush tool or hit B. And you're gonna wanna make sure your brush is black. And then all you're gonna do is you're gonna paint out the chair. Now, when you do this, what happens is the area that is underneath becomes revealed. But you do have to be careful. I'm actually just going to erase all of this so it's all uniform. Is that because of the time of day when I took my background picture, it was actually a bit lighter. The sun was a bit higher than when I took this image. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come to contrast, and I'm just going to slightly tone down the brightness. We're going to try to line that up as close as we possibly can between the two images, and it's really not that much. So I don't think, unless I pointed it out, you would really notice, because now it just kind of looks like a shadow. And then, so that's that. We took out the chair. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna save as, and I like to save to my computer because I find it easier to find, and we're just gonna put float vid Photoshop. Now, because I like to edit in Lightroom, we're gonna find float vid Photoshop, and I already have Lightroom open here. We're gonna go to our library, drag float vid Photoshop, excuse me, and we are going to find it here, and we're going to import it. And from here we can develop it. So I'm just gonna start by straightening it, because that's just my kind of thing, and I'm just gonna straighten it with the face line. I'm just gonna line up my nose and my lips, and we're just gonna call that straight. Is it straight? I don't know, but we'll leave it straight because my nose looks straight. And then we're gonna enable the lens correction. So I have a Nikon, and I used, I believe, my 50mm. And then just what I like to do very quick is the first step when I'm editing is I'm going to dehaze an image just to kind of get some colors and some of that haze out of there. You can do it a lot or you can do it a little, but I kind of just usually float around what I feel like is good. My exposure on this image I feel like is pretty decent, but I am going to brighten it a little bit. Put the contrast in there just a titch to get a little bit more color. I'm going to make it a little bit more warm because it was just about sunset. And the rest of this is just messing with what you prefer, really. This image doesn't really need too much editing, in my opinion. I actually really like the way it turned out. Just bump clarity and texture just a tick. And if you want, what's really cool is you can just flip back and forth with a button. That's one thing I really love about this. And yeah, that's it. That's how you do that. So yeah, I'll answer any questions you have in the comments below. And aside from that, that's gonna be it. I've been that guy Zyrek. Have a great day.